this walk we've come to Neist Point, which is on the west coast of Skye. We're parked up, we're having a cup of tea before we head off on the walk, and there's a fantastic view out the kitchen window. We'll do the walk, the weather's not too bad, but it'll be an interesting walk right to the headland and the lighthouse. So we'll have the brew and then we'll set off. Neist Point is the most westerly area of the Isle of Skye, and it's on the Dunvegan Peninsula. To get there you have to head west from Portree in the direction of Dunvegan, but then you take the smaller road towards Glendale and then onto the small hamlet of Waterstein. At the road end you'll see a parking area for a good number of vehicles. Once parked up, the walk takes us down on a good concrete path heading southwest towards a headland, then down towards the lighthouse. We'll do a short walk round towards the old jetty, back to the lighthouse, and then head back up towards the car park. For this walk we're going to head along to the viewing point and then back to the car park where we started the walk. We've left the car in the car park and walked along towards this small cabin, and when you reach the cabin you'll see the headland in front of you. You won't be able to see the lighthouse, that's beyond the headland, but you'll see the headland and the path that leads down and round it towards the lighthouse. Up to the right is a viewing point, and that's where we're going to go to later. This is actually a very straightforward walk. There's a concrete path with rails all the way along to the lighthouse, and that's the route that most people will take, and really that's the route we are also going to take, but we'll have a little look round at the lighthouse and see if we can find something else of interest before coming back. So let's crack on with the walk. Just past the hut you'll see that the land drops down really steeply, and just on the edge of the sort of cliff there's a old rusty piece of machinery. This was an aerial ropeway, and it was used to take goods all the way down to the more flat piece of land for when the lighthouse was manned and operated. The wire for the aerial ropeway is still in place, and we'll see more of that when we get to the bottom of the steep section that we're about to take. Now you can see ahead of us the footpath that will take us round the headland towards the lighthouse. The path now drops down steeply. It's a concrete path with steps and a good handrail, but it does get really busy, so you have to be polite, let people past and take your time, and you'll soon get down to the bottom of the slope. And this is the bottom of the aerial ropeway. It's still in remarkably good condition, considering it hasn't been used for years. And you can see the remains of the old cage where goods were loaded into to get them down and onto the lighthouse. Now you can see the path continues round to the left of this main headland, and that's a straightforward walk. But we're going to go up to the right here, just to the edge of the cliff. Going to take great care, of course. It's not too windy today, but it's rainy and it's slippy, so we're not going to get too close, but it'll be worth a look over there. Let's go. That's impressive, and that lovely little bit of light out on the sea. And you may not be able to see it just here at the minute, but on the ledges there, and some of the birds flying around, there's birds nesting. And of course it's spring, and even though I've got the drone with me, this is one of the reasons I wouldn't be flying the drone today, because of the nesting birds. But we've got some good ones coming in. There's cormorant there, and I'm not sure, there might be kittiwakes or fulmars, I'm not too sure. I'll have to check on my book, but I'll see if I can get a couple of good close shots with my camera. And you walk along towards the lighthouse, look left, you'll see a large promontory, and that's Waterstein Head, apparently the second highest sea cliff on Skye. And we just walk further along the path. As you continue along the path that goes round to the left of the headland, all of a sudden, Neist Point Lighthouse is revealed. Like most lighthouses, it's in a very remote location, and it's quite simple just to follow the path towards the lighthouse. So up behind us you can now see the path with Waterstein Head behind, and instead of just sticking to the path, I thought I'd deviate across to here to have a look at the headland that we've just walked round. And it's a really impressive sea cliff. There's seabirds swirling around on the wind, there's a cormorant, and I think maybe even a razorbill or two. It's an impressive sight. And then around behind us sits the lighthouse, right on the edge of the cliff. We've just come to the headland side of the lighthouse, which you can see behind me. Interesting about the lighthouse because it was designed by a guy called David Stevenson. It first came into use on the 1st of November 1909, and the cost of building that whole lighthouse complex was £4,350. Now, David Stevenson was from a family of lighthouse designers. His brother, his uncle and his grandfather all designed lighthouses, and I think he lays claim to having designed 26 around the coast of Scotland, and between them they did something like 95% of the lighthouses. And just as an aside to that, there was a famous family because his cousin was actually the writer Robert Louis Stevenson, and that's him. Now, the lighthouse operated as a manned lighthouse until 1990, and then in that year it was automated, so it still runs as a lighthouse. So the lighthouse is still operated by the lighthouse board, if you like, but the property around it is privately owned, and I understand that some of them were holiday cottages. Whether they're still rented out as holiday cottages, I'm not too sure. It doesn't look like it. Some look quite run down, but there's a few which are quite neat, so maybe they still are available to rent as a holiday cottage. So if you want to come and get away from it all, this would be the place. But I think the biggest drawback is getting your luggage all the way from that car park down those concrete steps over to here, and you don't want to be running out of milk. So that's Neist Point Lighthouse. We're going to carry on now. We're going to walk around the headland a bit onto the sort of rocky coast, make a bit of a tour of the headland, not that there's much to tour, and over to a jetty which is over here, and then we'll retrace our steps back up to the car park. Like many of the headlands and coastal areas of Skye, it's a great place for watching bird life. But on top of that, if you're very lucky, around these coasts you can see things like dolphins and even whales. All we've seen today are quite a few seabirds and the odd seal. There's some cormorants coming across now even. It's just fantastically wild. So it's worth bringing a good pair of binos and taking your time to have a good look. We're now coming up to the area of the jetty. Now, I don't know much about the history of this construction, but I would imagine it was built to help bring in supplies and building materials to actually build the lighthouse. But of course, when the lighthouse was up and running, it could have brought in supplies and stores for the running and maintenance of the lighthouse. Now, it hasn't been in use for about 35 years, but it's still in remarkably good condition. However, the salty sea air has played havoc with the mechanics of this machinery. The winch is rusted up, but it's given it a real arty look, beautiful colours and flaking rust, almost like a sculpture. To me, there's something really interesting about these old pieces of mechanics, which have passed their working life and now turned into something more like an art form and are just going to flake away. On leaving the jetty, we're going to head towards the lighthouse. And from there, we'll pick up the concrete path again and head back up towards the car park, up those steep concrete steps. Well, that's a good pull up. Certainly gets your heart pumping. But we're nearly at the top and at the car park. But instead of going straight back to the car, we're going to head off to the other viewpoint. So we've just walked up really on the cliff edge, away from the car park, which is down behind us over there. And you'll see by how worn this area is, it's a little bit muddy. But this is the place that people come to take the classic view of Neist Point Lighthouse. It's a photographer's classic, if you like. It's almost too overdone, cliched, but you can't help but admire a cracking view like that. Now, this is okay, but it's an overcast day. The view is still fantastic, but we're looking out to the west. When the sun sets, and if you get a good sunset, the sun will come on and light up all of that headland and the lighthouse, and it's absolutely stunning. I haven't taken a photograph like it because I've not been here at the right time, but you only need to go online and search for Neist Point Lighthouse and you'll see every sunset picture taken from here. So if you get a chance, this is the place to come to. Of course, as I'm here, I'm going to have to take that classic photo. The light's not brilliant, but you take what you get. Well, I've got my pictures that I want, but there's loads of places to stand here. But the one thing I would say is this is close to a cliff edge. If you come here, don't get overexcited about the photography. Remember your own safety first. It's a long way down. We're going to sort of end it now. We're going to go back to the camper van and have something to eat. And we're not in any hurry to get away from here. So maybe in half an hour's time, we may be lucky. We may have some better light. There's some good light coming in over the Outer Hebrides at the minute. In an hour's time, that might come here and this may be fantastic. I don't hold out much hope. It's brilliant just as it is. Anyway, that's our walk around Neist Point. I'll end it here. If you've enjoyed this film and found it informative, don't forget, click the like button, and even better, why not subscribe to my channel? You'll get more films like this. But in the meantime, thanks for watching.